Good morning. Welcome to the Science of Mind class here at CSLDallas. I'm Dr. Petra, and we are still in the same chapter, still in the same section, but boy, is it juicy, juicy. So we're on 114 if you are following along at the bottom. We talked about spirit as us. We talked about the physical creation and what the whole point of physicality is and our part of that, which is to enjoy it. Fundamentally, to enjoy it. To express ourselves, to be all that we came here to be, and then to enjoy the expression of it. So now we come to that third piece, which covers a multitude of things that are left over from the infinite reality, this thing that Science of Mind calls soul, which we are specifically talking about right now, that portion or that aspect called subjective mind. So down at the bottom, we had finished up last week with this second to last paragraph. We treat of soul as being the part of our mental being which is subjective to the conscious mind, right? Which is why in the Science of Mind we say subjective mind, universal subjective mind, as opposed to the psychological word subconscious, because it's never asleep. It is subject to whatever is planted in it, like the soil. The soil doesn't make a decision about what's going to be grown in it. Whatever falls from the tree or is purposely planted, or the squirrels have put it, the acorns right in the middle of my garden. There's a little oak tree growing. Okay, so another aspect of the soul, this aspect of the one. Remember, it's not a part of the one. We're not splitting it off, but we're talking about an aspect of infinite reality. The soul is the seat of memory, the mirror of mind in the individual. It is the creative power within us, creating from the patterns given it and from the memories it contains. So this power we call the law of cause and effect. And so what is the cause are the patterns given to it, right? Consciously given to it or taken in from the outer world, and or the memories contained within it. We gather soul or subjective force as we accumulate the right kind of experiences. Okay, I am this old and have done that this long before I noticed that sentence. Oh my God. We gather soul or subjective force as we accumulate the right kind of experiences. Well, what is subjective force? It is the law of cause and effect in operation. And what would it mean if we have the right kinds of experiences? The patterns and memories would be in alignment with spiritual truth. So the more in alignment the patterns are, the patterns of our thinking and the memories of our experiences, the more powerful our creative action is, because we are in alignment with the natural creative action of life itself, rather than life saying, everything is there when you need it, but our pattern and our memories saying everything that we need is hard to get. You see, now our memory and pattern is at cross purposes to the way the natural action of the law is moving. Now we can do that. And the more we think that truth, the more the law will, or that truth for us, based on our experience, the law will say yes. But it's a redirection of the natural tendency of the law, right? So this is, and I think this is what we mean by alignment. I no longer have to think about what I want to demonstrate or quite as deliberately focus on a particular form, because my memory and my patterns are in alignment with the way life wants to express as me, which is whole, perfect, and complete, joy, love, peace, beauty, abundance, and an unlimited expression of ourselves, right? And so our soul force, if you will, not our willpower to make it happen, but the force of our creative power, which is the law that we're engaged in all the time, right? There's nothing in the way. There's nothing trying to redirect it into a pattern or a memory that is in conflict or not in alignment with the way the natural tendency of the law is to move, right? From life to life, from love to love, from joy to joy, from outward expression of the very truth and nature of the one itself. This is an amazing sentence. Oh my God. And so that's why we talked about last week, our choices are being educated. Because what are our choices but the initiation of experience? I'm choosing to eat that ice cream when I know that I'm lactose intolerant. I'm choosing to not forgive when I know that kind of unforgiveness and resentment is actually harming me more than it's harming the other person. Right? And then I have those experiences and I go, wait, maybe I should make a different choice. Maybe I shouldn't eat that ice cream. Maybe I should eat sorbet that doesn't have milk in it or something different, right? My choice is educated because what I'm putting in my mouth is actually better for me. And in the same way, maybe if I forgive or stop having resentment, I'll find less anxiety in my life. I'll find less resistance, whatever it is, and see my choice has in that moment been educated. And I begin to manifest different experiences because I'm choosing differently. And each time I'm more and more in alignment with the way life is seeking to express itself uniquely as me, as you. Oh my God, you should underline this paragraph. This little sentence here. Don't forget this little sentence. The law of the soul is subject to the conscious spirit, tendencies set in motion in the soul, or subjective life. Let me read this statement again. The law of the soul is subject to the conscious spirit, which is tendencies set in motion in the soul, or subjective life. They tend to produce their like in the objective world, right? That's the law that we're talking about, the law of cause and effect. From this is deduced the possibility of the healing power of the spoken word operating through mental law. This is why after our celebrations, we have our spiritual coaches that are available to you to do this kind of work, to align memory and conscious intention, subjectifying it by believing it, by trusting and knowing that it's true, which is the possibility of that kind of healing. So let's carry on with this idea of the seat of memory. The soul, being the seat of memory, already contains a record of everything that has ever happened to us.
Hold it.
I know, right? Pardon me?
Lifetime or forever?
Well, are we infinite beings? Is the universal subjective mind infinite? So this is what Edgar Cayce called the Akashic records, right? When he talked about going into his trance or whatever that state was, and he talked about literally walking through the halls of the memories of the human race. And he saw things as if they were pictures hanging on a wall, right? What he's talking about is accessing this memory. The memories as a whole constitute the subjective tendency of the individual life. The memories as a whole, right? Trauma plus joy plus shitty experiences plus bad choices plus amazing moments, the tendency, right? All of that begins to become this soup, this tendency of our individual life. So it's the tendency of the way we react to things, the tendency of how we think about things, the tendency of how we move through our lives. But the good news, so that's the bad news, right? And if we're on autopilot, what that means when we are on autopilot or we are unconscious is those tendencies are just playing out.
Yeah.
Right? They're just playing out. So I have a long history from my childhood that I'm really good at games, super good at games, and that did not go over well in my family, especially with my sister. And so I learned to lose. And I can feel the switch, right? I can feel the switch when I start losing in a game. And I do it purposefully because I don't want the other person to be mad at me. And so I have so built the tendency of losing that I remember saying to Karen, we were on vacation, we were playing, I can't remember whether it was gin rummy or canasta or something. And we were keeping a record over the whole week we're on vacation. And I was like, you're always winning. I don't want to play with you anymore. You're always winning. It's so annoying. I was pouting and everything. And she said, let us look at the score sheet. Oh, you won this game. Oh, and you won this game. Oh, and you won that one too. How about we count up how many games you won and how many games I won? Do you see, my subjective tendency was so afraid of noticing that I was winning that I simply ignored that piece of information and got mad because I was always losing, which had no basis in the reality of the moment. These are the kinds of things, right, that play out. And if we constantly are moving from that subjective tendency, then we're constantly recreating that. However, the tendency can be changed through constant effort and a determined persistency of purpose. So since that moment, every once in a while, Karen has to remind me, look, you're winning. Mm-hmm. And I'm noticing that I'm winning, and she doesn't get mad at me. She's actually willing to go right on and play the next game. Wow. And that is the persistent, and I have to persistently pay attention to that. Do you see what I'm saying? I have to persistently notice those things rather than allowing the subjective tendency to keep running, which is to avoid looking at those things and only focus on when I don't win. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. Through conscious effort and a determined persistency of purpose. I mean, otherwise, why bother? Otherwise, we're stuck. We're stuck with our trauma. We're stuck with the drama cycle, hero, victim, perpetrator. We're stuck with, if we were abused, well, that's all we know. We're going to become abusers. We're stuck with our parents' level of prosperity or joy in their relationship. We're just basically stuck with the past if we cannot change these things. But the good news is, over and over and over again, there's so much evidence, tens of thousands of years of evidence that we can change it. And we change it by changing our conscious intention and rewriting those patterns. And of course, neuroscience is happily corroborating this truth. And the good news is, yes, you can in fact teach an old dog new tricks. There is no age limit to our ability to do this. None whatsoever. All right, so let's stop there and talk about this idea that our subjective mind is the repository of our memories and our patterns, and that we can change it. What is the good news about that? What is the bad news about that? And what are you doing with that in your own life or your own spiritual work? So we're going to stop, say good morning to Ryan, say good morning to all of you out there. We've got a lovely group in here we've said good morning to already. We talked about the Olympics and all kinds of things. So we're going to see what's going on out there.
Well, good morning to you too, Dr. Petra. And I have a bit of bad news to start off with.
Uh-oh.
Yep. It's the last day Valerie's going to have her stuff
Oh,
up.
yes, that's right.
Yes. So our Artist of the Month is going to be coming down today. So it's your last chance to get that beautiful fabric art.
I know, her stuff is amazing. I have two pieces of her art on my walls, and I have two or three of her wearable art.
Yes. So sorry about the
Good.
interruption there, but I wanted to make a note of that. So welcome to everybody who is joining us in person and online all over the globe. We'd love that you're in community with us. And as Dr. Petra was mentioning, this is an engaging conversation, so we'd love to hear from you. The folks here in the room, the ones I'm waving to right now, your beautiful faces. Yes, thank you for waving back. It makes me feel seen behind this pole that I'm in front of, right? You guys will be on camera today, so just heads up. If you don't want to be on camera, you can always head over here to my left. But we will always hear your voice. Just go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll bring you into the room. For those who are participating on Zoom, you can go ahead and hit the raise your hand icon located down under the reactions tab, and I can bring you into the room. And for those who are joining us all over on Facebook, just say hello, check in, let us know where you're watching us from, and always make sure to leave your questions and comments in the chat, and I can bring that into the room as well. So we have one person here and then a person online. So we're going to go to Patrick here first.
All right.
Hi, I'm Patrick, and as you were speaking, sort of two things really registered with me, and they're things that I intellectually knew, but I was really able to kind of go into them and feel them and go, oh, that is really strong, and that's why I struggle in these two areas. The first one is around when I try to imagine myself, having the prosperity, having the things that I need, I just get this deep sense of, cross purposes, the lack, growing up feeling like I couldn't have this, I can't have blah, blah, blah. And that goes into like, okay, when I want to have the ice cream or the thing that I know it isn't good for me, there's this part of me that goes, but I want it. And because you tell me I can't have it, I'm going to have it anyway. And, so I just keep doing that over and over. And when I tell myself, okay, it's fine, you can have it, sometimes that desire just goes away, and then I can move on and do something else. The other one is very similar to what you were talking about with board games and or just games in general, and not wanting to win because I didn't want to anger people, but it extended to other areas of my life, not wanting to show off my intelligence, or if I bought a new car or something, I was afraid I'd have a friend who'd get jealous of me and be upset. So I, try not to show off and stand out too much because I feel like, it makes me a target. And I guess that's what they call tall poppy syndrome in Australia. And just realizing that those two things are just like really, keeping me stuck.
Wonderful. It's wonderful to notice them. Thank you for sharing that. You are not alone in any way, shape, or form, right? So in terms of the first one, part of the challenge is that our brain is designed to garner evidence that is in alignment with what we believe to be true, right? And so every time we do the work to shift, to see something different, our brain scurries around and finds all the evidence why this new truth isn't actually true. And so part of what we get to do is we get to actually look for and show ourselves when we have in fact had the right kind of experience, meaning an experience of prosperity or an experience of joy. It's the other reason why we also allow ourselves to be inspired by others, to rather than take their testimonial or their excitement about the good in their life as them showing off, but actually to take it as, well, if they can do it, so can I. Not, well, if they can do it, so can I, right? But if they can do it, so can I, right? This is why inspiration of other people having amazing lives is really important to us, as long as it's the kind of life we want to have and not just lifestyles of the rich and famous, right? That's all media driven because they want you to buy more stuff. And so that's why looking for evidence in our lives of that we are in fact already supported is really important. I didn't know it was called the tall poppy syndrome. It's the other reason why we're in community with spiritual beings, right? Or people who know they are spiritual beings. Of course, we're all spiritual beings, so that was a silly statement. People who are trying to live that kind of life, because here, hopefully, we are grown up enough and spiritually mature enough that when somebody says, wow, I've had this amazing experience, I've had this, incredible moment of experiencing the presence or feeling connected, or I had this amazing moment of deep love that in a place where I didn't think I would find it, or whatever it is, that we actually don't do that to that person, but actually are really able to cheer them on, to have joy in their joy, right? So that we can also experience then the joy in our own experience. And it's really important to surround ourselves with people who are willing to celebrate our good. Of course, we also have to celebrate others, right? It's a two-way street. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? So do unto others, celebrate everybody's joy no matter what. Sometimes we might want to be thoughtful about who we share our joy with to make sure that it's actually people who will celebrate us in turn. And so these are the kinds of things, right? And we're in charge of that. We're in our rebellion. You tell me I can't do this, therefore I'm going to do that. Our rebellion is something, that's our teenager. That's not the truth of our being, right? And we give so much power to our little girl or little boy and our inner teenager and all of that, as if we had no ability to make a different decision, as if actually we're not adults, but we're that. But when we're our essential self, we're actually our own adult, and we're our deepest essential self who can say, yeah, that's just my teenager rebellion going, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not telling myself what to do. I'm making new choices. Do you see? It's an entirely different thing. Thank you, Patrick. All right, we're going to go online.
Yeah, we'll go online here in the room, and then we'll come back online.
Great.
Again. Nita, would you go ahead and unmute yourself and join us?
Good morning, Anita.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Petra. When you mentioned the fact of you got to work hard to get anything. I was raised with Depression era parents, and of course that was the thing that I was always taught. Right. And so about 14 years ago, I was faced with a situation where I didn't know whether I was going to make it. And I started doing the affirmation that many people have heard me say and start meditating on that all of my needs are met before the needs that arises. I have plenty to spare, plenty to share, pressed down, good measure, and overflowing. And, I did that night after night after night after night and throughout the day until it was so embodied with me and so embedded in me that now all I do is I watch for the serendipities of things to unfold. No longer am I worried about, am I going to have enough, or am I going to be able to do this or do that? I know that I'll be able to do it. I know that everything I need is already supplied. And I just envision the banquet table spread before me, and all I have to do is just step up to it.
I love that, Anita. And what a beautiful description that is. The tendency can be changed through constant effort and a determined persistency of purpose, which is exactly what you just described. And the idea that our subconscious tendencies, the subjective mind is subject to that conscious impress, right? Which you were doing. And you didn't just do it once in the morning, Or you didn't just do it once and say, okay, I've done my spiritual work, nor did you do it just once in the morning, but over and over and over and over and over again. Thank you for sharing that. What a lovely, lovely example of exactly what we're talking about. And then I really loved what you said there at the end too. So many people are busy, you know, I need this $1,000 to pay my rent. I need to get this job so I can buy my house. I need to do this. I need to do that. And it's all these individual things, which actually is fine if there's something individual you want. But when that consciousness is created, then you do get to just know that everything is taken care of. And surprise, surprise, here it is, whatever it is. And then there's a whole nother joy in the journey. But you can't wait for the surprise if we haven't cleaned out our subjective tendencies. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if we haven't implanted some new way of thinking about it, the old tendency is in fact what's going to play out. Because the law needs some direction. Beautiful. Thank you, Anita. Okay, Keenan.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Keenan. So 2 words come to mind.
No, it's for the people online. It's not in here.
So 2 words come to mind, and they're some people will see it as a bad word. I don't think it's bad. I think about confirmation bias. And so,
yes,
I am looking for abundance, and so I see more abundance, and so I'm looking for more abundance, and now I see more abundance.
Yes.
And I had this situation this week that kind of like it brings me back to that. So there's a political ad. It's a parody. It's meant for humor. I sent it to my mom, and she messaged me back, and she's like, "This didn't resonate with me. Whoever made this, they made this to be hateful and out of fear." And I thought about it, and it made me think. Well, I thought it was funny. So it made me think, okay, why am I looking at it like humor and you're looking at it as like hateful and fear? And when I worked through the idea in my mind, I thought about the ad, and I'm like, I could kind of see that. Like if you look at the messaging and the narrative, yeah, this is really bad. This is saying something really bad about somebody. But then I thought about it like objectively. If I go to a comedy show like Cat Williams or Dave Chappelle, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's exactly the same thing, And so I thought about it. Well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is when you go to a comedy show, you're expecting to see comedy.
Yes.
And so in my mind, I thought about it for myself. I'm like, well, I go into life looking to see comedy. So I think that's what I saw.
Beautiful.
So I think that illustrates kind of like this concept that we're talking about this morning.
And I love that you bring up something that is quote unquote negative, confirmation bias, right? But all of these things we can use for our good. We can, right? Our life is run on habits. And our life is run by the filter system that we have that's taking in all the information. Otherwise, we would literally become catatonic if we had to parse every bit of information that was coming to us. And we use those filters to help us manage it. And so the whole point of affirmations, what Anita said, right? The whole point of an affirmation is to build a new filter. And to make your confirmation bias be looking for evidence of what you want, as opposed to just on autopilot, evidence of whatever you were taught to believe, taught to think about. I just really want to say it's really funny. There's I used to read The Onion all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's always been really funny to me how many people would, like somebody would post an Onion story, and there would be all this like outrage that somebody had written it, completely missing that it was either irony or satire. And because we take our position so seriously, we miss irony and satire. When we can hold even our own positions lightly, that humor is a little easier to see. So it's always something to remember and to, right? And so It's that lightness of spirit, that lightness of even holding our own opinions a little bit differently that allow us to maybe see through our initial reaction that we might have. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, online, and then we have a comment again in the room.
All right. Armando, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and join us?
Good morning, Armando.
Good morning, Dr. Petra. This conversation reminds me of during the pandemic. Don't mind you, I've been treating since 2017 that I would be operating my nonprofit with over 100,000. And now it's pandemic, doors are closed, the world is turned upside down. I literally thought I was going to have to close down my organization, lay off staff, whatever. And so that during that time, I was able to bounce back. And at the end of December of 2020, manifested $200,000. I've been waiting for 6 years. The thing is, though, that I did not want to share that with anyone because everybody's lives had been turned upside down. And here I am celebrating and being on top of the world because it took 6 years of discipline and everything that I've done through CSLDallas to get to that point. And I felt bad that I kept it in for so long. And it wasn't until my CSL community reminded me that I should share my good, that this is how you share your good, and so forth. And to be honest, that was a game changer for me. It gave me the power to want more and to be able to desire more and create more. And that's one of the reasons why I love living the life that I live today, because I was able to demonstrate that even during that time, I'm still able to bounce back and I can continue to share my good because it's still making an impact in the world regardless. But it took me a while to learn that lesson, but I got my power back.
Beautiful. Yes, thank you, Armando. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what you're hearing over and over and over again is these things do actually take time. Persistent effort, the conscious persistent effort. That's why we say subjective mind is subject to conscious work, conscious intention, conscious and deliberate looking for evidence. It's not just affirmations. It's also looking for evidence. It's willing to surround yourself consciously with people who will celebrate your good. All of that is under the rubric of consciously subjectifying a new idea, right? We don't want to get caught in that it's just, I'm now going to think a conscious thought of good and it will magically happen. No, that's magical thinking. Right? It's all of it combined. It's thought, feeling, emotion, kinesthetic, everything. All of it is shifting, right? How we're perceiving and what we're attracting. Beautiful. Okay, we had a comment in the room.
So this has been a great discussion for me because there's so many areas of my life where manifestation flows like breathing air. Has always been in my life. And there's two areas that it doesn't. And it's always been a mystery to me. And my practice in those two areas is to search into my stories and understand what my soul messages are that are still blocking it for me. And so, this has just been a real rich discussion, and I do it. I meet with my practitioner every week, and I have been for years now on this one area, and now we're working on two. And it's amazing how deeply some of those messages are, and you just have to search for them and work on it and keep trusting that if you're manifesting in every other part of your life, this too will be, right? But you just have to really... for me, I have to really sort of unwind whatever is there that's blocking me. Yeah. But my son just recently gave me a very short, easily read book called The Willpower Instinct. Oh. And it just was an amazing book for me because it's all about research about what we tell ourselves and what we really do. And I saw myself all over this book. The stories I tell myself, that actually block what I want to have in my life. And it was just one more piece of like treasure
Yes.
on the journey that came from my son, right? And so it's just always, to me, it's one more evidence that I'm on the right journey because things I need are showing up
Yes.
for me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shauna. Thank you so much for sharing that.
The willpower instinct.
The willpower
And
instinct.
It's very practical and is full of research that backs their claims. And you're just going, oh, dang, that's me.
And I love that you talked about, right, and the willpower has everything to do with the story and how we're narrating our life and thinking about things. The willpower isn't about making it happen, right? Our willpower is, in fact, our focusing agent.
And our beliefs around it. And that's exactly where he comes from. I've never seen anybody come from that before. But then he gives you the evidence. I'm going, that's exactly what I do.
Right.
That's exactly the story I tell myself.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is awesome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today in our celebration. Because so much of how we narrate our life to ourselves. And Ernest Holmes says somewhere, it's great if you want to, you can do 15 minutes of spiritual work in the morning. But if all day you're then narrating to yourself something different, that 15 minutes that you've done in the morning has just been unwound. And so again, I want to go back to both Armando's and Anita's sharings that it is the persistent, what did he say? The persistent effort. I loved what he said here. This tendency can be changed through conscious effort and a determined persistency of purpose. Notice that in there, it doesn't use the word thought or intention because it's a whole being response, right? It's not, I'm just going to set a new intention and I'm just going to think differently. It's a consistent effort, a constant effort, and a determined persistency of purpose. To stay focused on gathering new evidence, to stay focused on listening to the story that you're telling. Wow, who knew that's how I keep telling this story? Noticing what evidence you're constantly scanning for, noticing the minute that something happens, where your brain goes. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. It never works out.
Well, later in that paragraph, he says healing words. So you're healing whatever those tendencies are in that soul journey.
Yes, exactly right. And we don't have to always have something wrong to manifest. We don't always have to fix something in our consciousness to manifest. It's always about the patterns. When there are patterns in our life, then you can absolutely rest assured that there is a pattern or a tendency in our subconscious, subjective mind that is playing out. Yes, we can absolutely just go for it and manifest it. No question about it. And there's lots of things and areas in our life that actually are working. The other piece I would say is, as we have areas in our life that are in fact working, pay attention. Pay attention to how you think about them, how you feel about them, what you expect, what you're assuming is going to happen. And then you can use a very lovely psychological technique, which is called transference. So you transfer from the part of your life that really works, you transfer those very same kinds of ways of engaging with that particular aspect of your life, you transfer that over to the area that's more challenging. And you can begin to do that because you actually have the skills. You actually know how to look at things, how to hold them, how to be with them, because you're doing it in the areas of your life that are working, right? And we all have that. We all have areas of our life that are no-brainers, and then we have sort of these persistent ones that usually have to do with how we were raised, some traumatic thing that happened in our childhood. Perhaps we brought it in from a former life, who knows? But those are the patterns that are playing out, that those are the ones that require this constant effort and persistency of purpose. Yeah. So, and I love the fact that in that statement, there's no, it doesn't keep the work of conscious work, it doesn't keep it as purely a cerebral or mental activity. That's part of it, but it's the whole kit and caboodle of us engaging. So, all right, so we're coming to the end, and I think Ryan's going to tell us a few things.
Yeah, I was, because what we've been talking about is kind of around this law of mental equivalence.
Yes.
And ironically, dun dun dun, we have a course coming up that's going to be talking just exactly about this. It's going to be hosted by Christine Volkmer. It's an online-only course. It's going to be coming up August 13th.
Yeah.
So if you want to learn more about this and kind of dive deeper into the law and also how you can apply it to your life, I recommend you go to CSLDallas.org to check it out.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, Ryan, right? The law of mental equivalence doesn't have to do with manifesting out there, which so many things do, the law of attraction and manifestation, all that. The law of mental equivalence teaches us that it starts in here, in what we believe to be true, and that space we hold in consciousness. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant class. Christine is a fabulous teacher, so take that class.
And I want to just shout out, because we have some really fun events coming up,
Yes,
too.
we do.
We have this thing that's called the Mystic Note Cafe. It's going to be a free event that's coming up on August 9th. It's where the community of CSL Dallas comes together and showcases off all their wonderful talents. So you can grab a drink, grab a friend, and come and have a good time. And then on the last Saturday of this month, yours truly is going to be hosting another workshop, which is going to be called Vision Cast. Mm-hmm. What we're going to do is a meditative experience followed up by taking that experience and putting it into artwork. So you have something cool to take home.
Well, I did Ryan's last New Year's, and I have one of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever made, taking this journey with Ryan. So I highly recommend it.
And
I'll second.
Yes, you were there too, right?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And just heads up, guys, it's limited to 20 people, and we need to have registration by the 23rd. That way
Sign
we'll know
up.
how many supplies and how much fun food to bring for it as well, too. So
Right.
Awesome.
Good. All right. So we'll see you in the celebration. We'll see you in a class, in a course. We'll see you when we see you, or we'll see you next Sunday. Bye for now.
Right.